everybody, and welcome to this week's insightful topics. And this week's topic is called the Life Planner. So, the Life Planner, I just feel like this is something everyone can relate to. This has definitely been myself, and either yourself or people that you know. And it is exactly what it sounds like: someone who just tries to plan out their life. So if life hasn't taught you already that you can't plan life, it's going to teach you that, because you cannot plan out your life. As much as we want to, and as much as that is our goal sometimes, life happens by itself. You honestly don't know where life is going to take you sometimes, and that's most definitely a blessing in disguise. Sometimes it's just so much better to try and plan, but honestly, it ends up backfiring on ourselves when we put that to the test and we try to do so much and try to plan. I honestly used to hate not knowing what's just gonna happen in life, but as I got older, I just kind of got used to it, and now life is just a box of chocolates and you never know what you're gonna get. I believe that is from Forrest Gump, but it's so true. You never know. And sometimes if you just let your life go with the flow, and if you just live, then things start to unravel the way that they are supposed to. We unconsciously put so much pressure on ourselves to have things so perfect. And things are never going to be perfect. And the more that you set yourself up to expect certain things at a certain time in your life, then you're going to be disappointed. You may not always be disappointed, but there is a big chance that you can be disappointed. And that's because you are setting out expectations. Sometimes you just can't expect things, and you just have to wait for things to happen. Whether it's with relationships, whether it's with something that's going on with school or your career, you can't plan exactly what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. It's just impossible. It does not work that way. Things are going to happen when they are supposed to happen. And if things don't work out the way that you planned, then it's supposed to be that way. Being organized and trying to plan day by day, or as best as you can, that's normal. You know, being organized is always a great thing. But when you try to plan for the future, it's going to truly affect your self-esteem and your value, because it's tied to expectation, like I was saying earlier. So when it is tied to expectation and it doesn't happen the way that you want it to, that's how it ends up reflecting on how you see yourself as a person. That's how it affects your value. Because if something doesn't go the way that you planned, you're going to automatically be down on yourself, and then it now becomes a negative situation. And that's why planning for the future and trying to be a life planner is not the ideal thing to be. You know, us humans, we're funny. We're a funny species, because if we're not living in the past, we're living in the future. If we're not living in the future, we're living in the past. So how about we try living in the present? Live in the present moment. Live in your present days, because that's honestly the best thing for you. And if we're not trying to plan for the future, we're trying to change the past. You know, whatever has happened to you in the past is the past. It is what it is. One thing that I want you to take out of this video, there's a lot of different things I want you to take out of this video, but also, as a side note, do not dwell on what you can't change. That is something that you should tell yourself every time you start to reminisce on the past and think about the negative things that have happened. Stop living in the past, because you don't live there anymore. And stop trying to plan for the future, because you haven't got to that bridge yet. You don't live there either. Live in the present moment. Living in the present moment is tied to mindfulness as well, in so many different ways. When you use mindfulness on living in the present, and I also did a video on mindfulness as one of my very first ones, you can absorb and embrace the present moments that you're going through, that you're living through. You're not thinking about the past and you're not thinking about the future. You're only human and you're going to want to plan for the future as best as possible, but you have to stop yourself if you get way ahead of yourself. And the only way to stop yourself is actually to be mindful that you're doing it. So being mindful is so key to living life and to accepting things and to realizing things. Train yourself to be mindful. Train yourself to live in the present moment. Don't train yourself to think about the past, to think about the future. When the future happens and when you get to that bridge, you will be able to think of what you need to do and what needs to happen. But what really needs to happen is mindfulness. You have to start living in the moment. Once you start appreciating yourself more and more and seeing your self-value, you're going to stop putting so many expectations in your life. And you're just going to let it go with the flow naturally. You're going to let life unravel the way it's supposed to. Because if you have self-doubt, that is when you expect. You put expectation after expectation, and if it doesn't happen the way you want it to, like I said earlier, it's going to have a reflection on your value and how you see yourself. How can one be living in the present moment if they're constantly thinking about the future? Your mind starts to drift. It starts to drift whether it's into the past or whether it's the future. So don't drift away from what's in front of you. Don't drift away from all that you have now. I don't know if you guys remember when we were kids, the schools used to give us assignment notebooks. They were like planners, and people still use planners, kids, teens, and adults, they're still used. It's called a planner, right? It's not called the life planner. So you can only plan so much. Please don't try to skip years and years ahead of you or try to skip back years behind you. When you plan, you expect. And when you expect, there's a chance that you can get disappointed. So live in the moment, plan for the moment. So ladies and gentlemen, plan what you can. You cannot plan for the future excessively, and you cannot rewrite your past. So do what you can and live in the moment. If you want to read my blog on mindfulness, it will be on my website, www.peaceofinsight.com. And then if you want to read the blog, The Life Planner, it will also be on my website. All right, you guys, as always, you know it, stay empowered.